Oh, good day, dear people. We're in Scotland.
So why am I in Scotland? Well, around a week before, my friend Charlie got in touch and told me that she was making her way up to Scotland for a couple of days to do something rather special. Whilst I couldn't join her for that particular adventure, there would be a chance to spend some time around the west coast of Scotland. And when she returned, we'd take the opportunity to hop over to the Isle of Mull, which, for those of you who haven't heard of it, is a kind of a kid in a candy shop situation for wildlife photographers and filmmakers like myself. It's known for incredible light, rugged landscapes, and is a true haven for British wildlife, or so I'm told. I've never actually had the opportunity to go. So, with the chance to see some of the best that British wildlife has to offer, including otters, which I've only ever had the briefest of glimpses of, I of course had to accept her offer.
See you later!
Bye! Right. So now, just me chasing otters with no experience for 2-3 days.
I spent most of the day searching for otters along the coast after receiving a little otter spotting advice from an expert friend of mine. More on that later. Sadly though, the majority of the day was pretty unfruitful. That was until I returned to my tent for a bit of lunch. It was a spot that I'd previously discounted because there was a pair of fishermen down on the shore, which I assumed would have meant that there was little photographic opportunity in terms of wildlife, though as it turns out that was far from the truth. So the fishermen down there spotted a lion's mane jellyfish that got stranded last night, so a little bit of a different one. I'm going to set up a macro system because it's still very fresh. It's a little bit sad but fascinating at the same time, and get a real up close macro shot of the patterns and textures of the body of the jellyfish. These are the ones that can get up to 8 feet in diameter, so they can get massive. I think the most average size is about 50 centimetres, and this is one of those, but the textures and patterns are really, really interesting, and I'm going to try and make the most of that while I've got the time, which again is a luxury that I'm not used to.
That's the size of my hand.
Got to get some good photos of that, surely. So I'm managing to get some interesting shots, but there's a heavy amount of reflection, so I'm going to try and blanket something over the top so you can see more detail and less reflections. But I have just noticed, I think it's still breathing. Unfortunately, they give incredibly painful stings, and on a very rare occasion, fatal ones. So I had no way of lifting it into the water. It's just a case of waiting until high tide and hoping that it lifts it back up.
That is nearly perfect. Whoa!
This is looking really cool. That's the one. After taking the photo, I managed to find a spot in a nearby campsite for the next 2 nights, so I packed up and moved, ready for an early start in the morning. Day 2 was a bit of a roller coaster, to say the least. Having started the day at sunrise, I returned to the spot where I photographed a jellyfish. But in the early morning peace and quiet, I became distracted by a faint rustle behind me. It turns out it was a mink, an invasive species in the UK, but still amazing to see for the first time in the wild. I watched and listened as it darted amongst the foliage just in front of me. I even managed to get perfectly set up as it made a fleeting appearance in front of my lens. Sadly though, in my tiredness, I'd managed to change the preset custom mode and ended up with a completely unusable image. Not deterred, okay slightly, I made my way down to the shore in the hope of seeing a harbour seal that I had caught a distant sighting of the day before.
Dear people, I've just got the best shot of the trip so far. I think you'll agree. I'll put it on screen now. Got everything you want. You've got the eye contact, you've got it filling the frame, you've got well exposed. So the reason that I am excited about this shot is because that is my first white-tailed sea eagle.
As it happens, the seal did make an appearance, and after a relatively short wait, though it decided to pop up right behind me, leaving absolutely no chance of getting the kind of shot that I wanted. So I'd had some great experiences so far, but I was growing frustrated with the lack of images, and after a spot of lunch things only got worse.
I've just woken up from a midday nap as a result of having several early starts in a row. I did a lot of driving and being on the go. The plan was to sort the car out, get it nice and organised in time for Mull, which I'll be going to tomorrow by ferry, to see and photograph otters for the first time. However, I've just woken up to a message from Charlie, who is on another island near Mull, a smaller one called Cole. She said, "Hey buddy, how's it going? Ferry times might change tomorrow due to bad weather coming in. We'll keep you posted as I might be back earlier than planned. Also, the weather is looking pretty horrible tomorrow and Wednesday, so our ferry crossings might be impacted as well. Basically, I think we need to seriously consider whether or not to go to Mull. Check the weather and let me know what you think." The weather's not looking great.
That was putting it lightly. This is a screenshot from the next day, the day that we were looking to cross over to Mull, forecasting 49 mph winds, which is, for a lot of ferries, the point at which deciding to cross is very much questioned. Coming back wasn't looking much better either, so as it stood, it looked like we may not get across, and even if we managed to, the filming conditions would likely be terrible. Even if all that went in our favour, there was a chance that we may not make it back in time, which was a real concern for both myself and Charlie, as we both had things we needed to be back for. It was a horrible situation to be in. We were so close to Mull, so close to otters, but it looked like we may not make it. And even if the ferries were sailing the next day, getting on one may be too much of a gamble, considering that we may not make it back in time. With so much uncertainty, all we could do was cross our fingers in hope and wait to see what the next day had in store for us.